Hey guys, this video is actually supposed to be our 2-year property tour, and I'm sorry if you're tuning in expecting that, but I had to put that on pause for just a bit because I got into it and I had a certain way that I wanted to do it. I was going to do it kind of as a tour and just throw up some pictures of how it used to look compared to now, but I started going through all the old videos on this channel, and I myself was kind of shocked at how much we've gotten done in 2 years. When you're living it, it seems like it's taking forever and that you aren't getting much done. But when you're watching back through the history of this channel, I'm kind of impressed. We have a lot more done than I thought. So in doing that video, I'm pulling in different clips to make a timeline of each project. And that is the way that it really was special to me and the way I wanted to do it. Not just for you guys to watch, but for something for us to hold on to and be able to watch something kind of all in one video rather than having to go back and look at different pieces of different videos in time. So I'm sorry about the delay, but I'm promising a much better video than I had originally planned. And that will be out next Friday. So today's jobs are starting out with cleaning out all of this that maybe from a distance looks like it was planned. It's not bad looking. However, it is a weed. It's some sort of tumbleweed, not the traditional prickly type, but it ends up being the same thing. A tumbleweed that gathers thousands of seeds. I don't want thousands of these. I left them here because they looked decent and they filled in this area, which wasn't planted yet. But now it's time to get rid of them. I do want to show you the update on Daisy's area. Bill has been amazing as usual, and we've been getting loads of dirt, I don't know, every other day or so, and he is here that day or the next to move it into place. He's here after work. He was here the other night all the way until dark. I felt bad, but he enjoys it. He enjoys it, but is in no way compensated enough for the amount of work and just the generosity that he has. So what he has been doing is lessening the slant of this road that he built to get down into here. We have a lot more dirt to bring to fill up this area once these trees are gone, to fill up that area down there. And so the thought is to make this wide enough and less slopey enough. What is the word for that? Where the dump trucks could actually feel comfortable just backing all the way down here and dumping. Right now he's having to, it's dumped on top of that plateau, and then he brings it load by load with the tractor down here. That's the one focus. This is the other focus. He's added all this new dirt in here, and this is where Daisy's barn is going to be. I use barn very loosely. It's really just going to be a basic shelter. It's not going to be like that or like that. I know some of you were expecting that. Maybe someday way down the road, but we've got 3 months to get all this ready, and you all know how long it's taken me for, well, at least the cottage. So this dirt is going to go, if you see all the logs that Bill pushed in there, they're going to go down there and build up higher than that, and then all the way over to here. So it's going to be a decent size area. We may just include the milking area down here as well. We'll just kind of see how that all works out. Right now I'm going to head back up and get rid of all those tumbleweeds. Am I the only one that forgot that we had a lilac planted here? It was completely covered up. Something else that was covered up was some gopher activity. Looks fairly recent. It's actually moist. So good thing I pulled these out today. Now I can take care of the gopher. I realize it's been a bit since I gave you an update on the gopher issue here. And really because it's gotten so much better. Between scar and trapping, in the actual garden spaces, there's been very few. I've only lost one plant, which Compare that to how bad the gopher situation was 6 months ago, 9 months ago. Doing good. So the trap I've been using successfully is the Gopher Hawk. This is not a sponsored video. They did send me 4 of these to try out. I had already tried one previously. The one I tried previously, I didn't have good luck with because I think it was the first gopher I ever caught or even saw. And now looking back after I've seen so many others, it was like this mutant huge gopher, which basically means it trapped it, but it didn't kill it. And that left me that unfortunate job. But ever since, it's been great. So what you do is you take this, and this is a probe to kind of stick into the ground, and when you feel that you've gone through into a gopher tunnel, then you put this back on, you stick this where you just plunged it, and you'll feel it go down. There's a definite feeling. And you kind of twist it or turn it like this to just kind of open up that hole a little bit. This gets pushed down into the hole, and then you don't push down on this, pull up on the bottom part, and that sets it. And as you can see, it's kind of a noose-like trap that is in the gopher's tunnel. So when they run through and trigger it, you got them. So now that I found this gopher mound, let's show you in action. Now typically you would find the U-shaped opening where the plug is. These have been messed up by me moving the plants around, pulling weeds. So I'm just gonna, right there. So put this back on. Yep, you can totally feel that it drops down into the tunnel. Twirl it around, pull it out gently. Now, you see the yellow here, it should be where you can see that. You're going to push this all the way down until it stops. Pack the dirt in around it, and then put your hand here and pull up on the black part. And it's set. When you see that yellow appear again, that means it's been triggered. The reason I love this so much is you don't have to dig and then place a trap and then cover it over very gently. It's just so much easier to set these. All right, there's more weeds left. It's the next day, and I've got all the weeds out of here. As you can see, they're all gone. Have not caught the gopher yet. Don't see any new mounds, though. I actually put this line of wood to just kind of show the outline of where the clover lawn might be. I like to use hoses or rope or wood like this and kind of lay out an area and live with it for a little while to get a feeling of how it's going to be before I set anything in stone. But the clover lawn is basically going to ring the entire cottage garden. So everywhere you see dirt right now, that will be nice and green. And I get lots of questions, rightly so, of what I'm going to be doing with this part under the cottage that's open. I haven't decided 100%. It's going to be some sort of rock work, possibly brick. I do have a lot of leftover brick from the chimney, so that might be something that I choose. Possibly more of a cobbly stone look. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Should it match the chimney or should it be something completely different? I won't be filling in the bottom of the whole coop, however. Most of it, I mean, definitely around the front. Right here, I'm going to leave that open. This is the actual hen house, and you want all the ventilation that you can get in the chicken house part. I'm also going to be doing windows. So there's, well, this window over here is already wire, and so I'm going to paint the wire black so it disappears. But we've got the window in the dormer. We've got this window here. And I thought up here it would be cool to kind of do like a stained glass look, maybe some flowers, or I don't know yet. But that was kind of the thought. And then there'd be a light on in these windows at night to just look nice and homey. This window down here has to be covered with something as well. And then we've got the door. And I think what I'm going to go with is a Dutch door. So, kind of it's cut in half and it opens top and bottom separately. And probably a robin's egg blue color. And I've talked about it several times, but first of all, I actually cleaned out in here. You guys didn't see it before because I was kind of embarrassed of it, but I've got all my pots and things over here, and everything else is cleaned out. But I've mentioned it several times. This roof is going to be covered very shortly, actually. I know now how much thatch I have left after covering the most crucial parts. And so we should be starting on this roof, I would say, next week. So stay tuned for that. As far as this grassy area right here, I was actually sitting here yesterday, just taking a breather and looking out there. Of course, these ladders will not be here and all that junk pile. But just thinking about sitting here a year or two from now and looking out at a nice big pond with trees surrounding it to kind of block out the road and the neighbors. It's things like that that keep me going. Today, however, it's a nice overcast day, nice and cool all day long, and so I'm going to get labor-intensive work done today. I'm going to keep digging out around this tree where this tropical bed will be, and then taking all the gravel and decomposed granite that I dig out from there and moving it over here into the Mediterranean garden. I showed you in the last video how I put what I already dug out in this bed and then starting around on this path, going around to the vegetable garden. And I'm putting this weed barrier down. I don't put weed barrier in the flower beds, so this rock border right here is the end of the weed barrier from the path. There's none in the flower bed. When you put a weed barrier down, it kind of robs the soil of the life that, decomposing things on top of the soil get pulled into the soil, and it just enriches the life in the soil. When you put a weed barrier down, that stuff can't be drawn down into the soil. Now, that's not a big deal if it's a path, and this is always going to be a path, and so I'm not worried about putting weed barrier down, but again, I don't put it in the beds. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started with that work. All right, it's the next day. I worked quite a bit yesterday to get as much done as I could. Take a look. Now right here in this blank area is going to be another bed just like the two next to it with the trellis coming across. So that's why I left that open. Right here, this is a path that runs in front of the house that will be finished eventually. And there will be a step down right here made out of this stone. So I'm not going to put the gravel in there just yet. And then I took this all the way down here. And then these stairs will be finished. So that'll hold that in, and then there will be more gravel on the next two levels. I put a basic rustic border of rocks that I've dug up here over the last few months, or a couple years really. And then in this bed underneath the espalier apple trees and fig tree, I'm going to be putting some pelargoniums, or some people might call them geraniums. And I'm going to be using cuttings from this one here. It's kind of a reddish coral salmon. I'm not sure what the color would be. But other than some succulents and eucalyptus trees, this was pretty much the only other plant that was here when we got here. It was on the front wall. We moved it around here. Pelargoniums are very easy to take cuttings from. So I'm going to do that. So I'll have all the flowers that I need for that flower bed along the house there for free. All my pots are stored up here in the cottage now. And I just want some small ones like these, maybe. And then a tray for water. Oh, by the way, I caught that gopher this morning. Yes! I get so giddy when it happens, probably have some maniacal laughter, but it is such a good feeling, especially since he took out one of my favorite dahlias before I got him. All right, I've got some pre-moistened potting mix mixed with some extra vermiculite, or perlite will work as well. I'm not packing it in, I'm just putting it in very lightly. Okay, and I've got them in my tray. Now let's go grab the cuttings. Now this is a good time of year to be taking cuttings because there's not a lot of blooms, and that's what you want. The end of a fresh piece that doesn't have any blooms on it. We're gonna break it off or cut it right below a node, which is where a leaf comes out, and then take off all of the leaves except for just one or two. Moisture is lost through the leaves, and so you want to make sure that we take off most of the leaves so we keep most of the moisture here in the stem. You can use rooting hormone. I don't find it necessary, especially with pelargoniums, and I'm going to stick it on the corner because that's going to allow even more drainage here along the edge. All right, so that's 24 new plants, if they all take, and they probably will, knock on wood. But that should be enough to fill that space. I'm gonna put them in a bright but shady spot. Keep them moist, but not soaking wet. And within just a couple of weeks, those should have roots, and probably within 3 or 4 weeks, they'll be ready to be planted in the ground. Back to earlier in the video when I was talking about laying out cords, or up there in the cottage garden, pieces of wood to show paths or flower beds or something. I've actually had these cords out here in the tropical garden since, I don't know, it's been a few weeks now, after we got back from Hawaii. And what these are good for is showing the paths and allowing me to walk these paths when I need to get from here or there. And I've actually tweaked them a few times because how they were laid out wasn't really conducive to getting around easily. But I think they're in their final position now. So now I just replace the cords with actually digging out the beds, but not today. So I think the last thing I want to do is plant some sweet peas. At this time of year, here in our climate where we get very little to no frost and certainly no freezes during the winter, the rule is if you get your sweet peas blooming by Christmas, they will bloom all winter and into the spring. Now, I've never actually been able to do that. I never get them in time, and I'm kind of close this time. Usually if you sow them in August, then you'll get them blooming by Christmas. I'm hoping here at the beginning of September, we're not too late. But it has to do with the length of daylight hours. So I did get them in the ground probably in October one time, and they grew tall, but they did not bloom until probably March. So we'll see. The variety that I'm planting is Enchant, although it has an E on the end, so it might have a fancier pronunciation. Enchante. I don't know. And we've already got the TP trellis set up here from last year. So I'm just gonna toss some Neptune's Harvest, crab and lobster, and kelp meal at the base of each of the poles. And I'm gonna plant probably 4 to 5 seeds at the base of each of the holes. I'm going to plant these a ½ inch to 1 inch deep. They do require darkness to germinate, and a lot of seed packets will tell you to soak these for 24 hours prior to sowing them. I have not found that that's necessary unless you have rodents that dig up your seeds and eat them. It's not necessary. We've got some Nicotiana that have seeded themselves in here, and I can just pull these out and I can replant them elsewhere. These actually look like runners from this main plant here. Actually got quite a few extra seeds, so I'm going to thicken this up a little bit by planting some between the 2 poles. To give them a boost, I'm going to put a stick into the ground And that way they can kind of climb their way up here and find their way to the main structure. So that should fill this structure very nicely in a couple of months and hopefully bloom by Christmas. That's it for today, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.